Welcome to the Invite Health podcast, where our degreed healthcare professionals are excited to offer you the most important health and wellness information you need to make informed choices about your health. You can learn more about the products discussed in each of these episodes and all that Invite Health has to offer at www.invitehealth.com/podcast. First-time customers can use promo code podcast at checkout for an additional 15% off your first purchase. Let's get started.
Staying focused has never seemed more important than it does right now, with so many people whose normal routine has perhaps been changed due to the pandemic, and maybe you're working from home now, maybe you're doing school from home. Trying to pay attention when you're in a different environment. Maybe you're used to being in a classroom and now you're doing class from home. Maybe you're used to going into the office and now you're using your dining room table as your new 9 to 5 area. And losing focus can be much more common. You're out of your normal routine, and this can have an impact in terms of the way that our brain is reacting and responding to that. So we know that there can be higher levels of stress that certainly can create issues with focus, but we also understand that because of this time, for many people, it's easy to get distracted, and sometimes we're focusing, we have concerns about, maybe you have an elderly family member that you're concerned about. Perhaps you have a coworker who, is having a difficult time with, the different changes that have occurred. Maybe you have a close friend who is struggling with, doing school from home. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons as to why people are trying to manage their mind space during this period. So I want to talk a little bit about some nutrients that you can be incorporating into your daily routine that can be beneficial for optimizing our attention and our focus, and just overall comprehensive for genuine brain supporting power. So I am Amanda Williams, MD, MPH, and I want to talk about brain stress today and what we can be doing. Sometimes we take for granted all of the things that we put on our brains every single day, and the workload that we expect our brains to carry for us. And during this time, sometimes you're not eating properly. Maybe you're not sleeping as much as you should be. You're focused on other things. So this is one reason as to why I like to make sure that we pay attention to the nutrients and we incorporate them into a daily routine to really optimize the way that our brain is responding and reacting to periods of stress. So we can look at omega-3 fatty acids, for example. We know that the brain is predominantly made up of these fats, and we know that dietary intake of omega-3s is certainly not what it should be. So we definitely want to make sure that we have omega-3s on board. So whether we're sourcing them from fish oil, krill oil, or flaxseed, however you need to incorporate in your omega-3s, make sure that you are getting those on board. Now, oftentimes people will say, well, how much omega-3 is enough? Well, it kind of varies, but I would say as a basic minimum, you'd probably want to be hitting at least 1,000 milligrams per day. And this could certainly go up depending upon what someone's needs are, what your overall mood is. If someone's dealing with a low mood situation, then yes, a higher amount of the omega-3 fatty acids would certainly be warranted. But we don't want to forget about the other fats too. We want to think about things such as phosphatidylserine and phosphatidylcholine. Both of these are so incredibly important when it comes to the health of our brain. And we know that dietary shortages of these two key nutrients, so coming from choline as well as from serine, that this can play a role in terms of our functional capabilities and our cognitive capabilities. We know that our brain's demand for both choline and serine is really enhanced with the aging process. So this is why a lot of the pharmaceutical medications that target things like dementia are targeted towards choline, for example. Now, what we do know is that if we can add in these very important phospholipids, these key fats, are just as important as when we look at those essential omega-3 fatty acids. If we can incorporate these in to our supplementation routine, this can really help to support memory and cognitive performance. And we have to look no further than looking at phosphatidylserine, for example. And we know that phosphatidylserine has been shown to help to maintain memory function and focus through neuroplasticity. And we know that neuroplasticity is this really dynamic capacity for the damaged neurons in our brain to be able to repair themselves and make new ones. So this is why phosphatidylserine so important, especially as we get older. But we also see this when it comes to focus and attention, which is why they have done clinical research trials utilizing phosphatidylserine even in the setting of college students who are under stress when it comes to taking exams and maybe are trying to do that cramming and they're not getting proper sleep and the brain isn't exactly working the way that you need it to. And so they have found that with the addition of this essential phospholipid, phosphatidylserine, this could really help to favorably impact the neuronal membrane, so the cell metabolism within the brain, and it helps to support proper neurotransmitter release, things like acetylcholine, for example, which we know is our memory neurotransmitter. So there's a lot of different things that we know about these very important phospholipids. And we can look at choline and the phosphatidylcholine. We know that choline is in certain foods that we eat. So you can get it in egg yolks, soybeans, for example, certain nuts, certain meats. But we know, once again, usually the choline deficiency is more pronounced in a standard American diet than we would like to see. And we know that we have to have choline, once again, for proper brain function. When we're looking at that acetylcholine manufacturing, that very important neurotransmitter, we know just from scientific research that in Europe, that choline is utilized as a prescription medication for the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. So they use this really cool form of it. It's called GPC, which is glycerol phosphorylcholine. So it's the way that the amino acid choline is actually molecularly bound. So it's glycerol phosphorylcholine. And they use this as a prescription medication to treat Alzheimer's disease and dementia. So we look at it and we go, okay, well, if this very important phospholipid is beneficial for someone who has Alzheimer's disease, well, then it must be very beneficial for someone who is just concerned about having good recall and good focus and attention, which is why when you look at something such as our Mind Synergy formulation, it is this wonderful blend of that alpha glycerol phosphorylcholine along with phosphatidylcholine. And these nutrients, when we combine them together, really give us this heightened ability to fend off a lot of the stressors that come about our day, at the same time help to support those neurons and those synapses so we are getting adequate output and that we are having that ability to really focus in. Now, in the Mind Synergy formulation, you have that combination of the alpha-glycerol phosphorylcholine, you have the phosphatidylcholine along with ginkgo. We know ginkgo is very powerful when we think about the way that the brain needs to get proper blood flow to it. And we know ginkgo biloba has been shown to be very, very helpful and beneficial for that. Same thing when you look at, say, like blueberry extract. We know blueberry extract helps with that cerebral blood flow, but also for fending off oxidative stress that can do damage within those neurons. So we know damaged neurons, very problematic. If we don't have enough phosphatidylserine, we lose that ability for neuroplasticity, meaning we can't then go through and repair and make new ones. So you can start to see that connection where you connect those dots. You can look at a formulation such as the Cerebral Care. A lot of times I would tell folks, take 1 scoop of Mind Synergy with 1 scoop of the Cerebral Care, and you are just getting this power punch of all of these wonderful wonderful essential nutrients that really do so much for overall brain optimization. In the Cerebral Care, we are combining the phosphatidylserine along with inositol. Now, inositol is really kind of cool because inositol helps with cell-to-cell communication. So say you're sitting there, you're at your dining room table, you're trying to do your work from home, and you just keep losing focus. Well, is it maybe that we don't have enough inositol? So those cells in your brain, those little neurons, they're just not communicating. One's over here thinking this way and one's over there thinking of something else. So by having that inositol on board, along with that phosphatidylserine to help to support that proper acetylcholine production, and we know acetylcholine is our memory neurotransmitter, all of these things in combination, very beneficial. So you look at the Cerebral Care and you say, okay, so we have this very important phospholipid. We have this very important inositol. It's kind of similar to like a B complex. One could look at it that way. It has acetyl L-carnitine in it. Remember when we take the amino acid L-carnitine and we add that acetyl group to it, it helps to drive it across that blood-brain barrier so we can enhance the energy production within the brain cells. So this is important. If we feel like we're a little foggy brained, if we feel like we just don't have that motivation, if we're losing focus and attention, is it because our little tiny mitochondria are saying, hey, I'm wore out, I can't make any more energy? And if that is the case, then we need acetyl L-carnitine. So having this within the Cerebral Care formulation, these are both real cool because they're both powders. So they're very easy to incorporate into your day. So 1 scoop of Mind Synergy, 1 scoop of Cerebral Care. Make sure you're taking your omega-3 fatty acids every day, your fish oil or your krill oil, and you are really setting yourself up for optimal support. And it's not just for memory. It's not just for looking at focus and attention, which in and of itself is great, but we also have to recognize the support that we are doing for mood. Because we know that if our brains are stressed, our bodies are stressed, emotionally people are feeling stressed out, that we need to be able to manage that so it does not become a long-term problem where it's creating a systemic problem. Now, here's a really just important fact when we talk about inositol. They did a double-blind placebo-controlled trial using inositol versus a SSRI. So that's a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, which is commonly prescribed for people who have things like depression or OCD. And in this study, they were looking at how well inositol worked in people who had issues such as depression, panic disorder, OCD. And through this, they found that inositol not only reduced the number of panic attacks per week compared to those who were taking this prescribed medication, but they also found that the side effects that came along with the medication, that SSRI, the nausea, the tiredness, did not occur in the group that was given the inositol. So, looking at the safety and the efficacy of things like phospholipids that we know the body needs, looking at safety and efficacy of something like inositol that we know that the body requires. And when we lose balance of those and we don't do anything to try to repair that, then we can start to see why we struggle when it comes to maintaining our stress levels. And the resultant of that is we lose focus, we lose attention. We start to have low mood. People start to feel panicky and anxious. So we can create a lot of this balance and bring a lot of that back just by incorporating these nutrients into a daily routine to give total support for mood, for memory, our overall sense of well-being. And study after study have indicated this and showed this. I mean, there's a study that came out of Arizona State University about a year ago, looking at phosphatidylcholine and why choline is so important for fighting Alzheimer's disease. And these are things that we know, but yet we still just don't hear enough about when it comes to, hey, I'm stressed out. I'm working from home. Hey, I have to do school from home. I'm not enjoying this process. What can I be doing? Pay attention to the foods you eat and make sure that you're getting in nutrients that really help to offset a lot of that internal stress that can basically create damage to your neurons. And if we cannot undo that damage, if we are lacking those phospholipids, that phosphatidylcholine, that phosphatidylserine, then we're setting ourselves up for further cognitive decline. And that's certainly not something that we want to do. So by all means, I certainly encourage you to check out our website and go and look at the Cerebral Care formulation, look at the Mind Synergy. We have phosphatidylserine just by itself. We have so many different nutrients that can really be beneficial when it comes to optimal overall brain support. The Purple's HX, for example, we know that's packed with all those powerful anthocyanins that can really be beneficial for optimal brain health as well. So a lot of ways that you can help to support and manage your mental stress during these times. And definitely check it out. If you have questions as to how to take them, when to take them, definitely reach out to one of our nutritional experts. That is what they are there to do. They are there to help you help yourself. And that is all that I have for you for today. I want to thank you so much for tuning in to the Invite Health podcast. Remember, you can find all of our episodes for free wherever you listen to podcasts or by visiting invitehealth.com/podcast. Now, do make sure that you subscribe and you leave us a review. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Invite Health. And we will see you next time for another episode of the Invite Health podcast.